ensuring consent for patient care is obtained and respect for consequent refusal of consent. In the case of Schloendorf versus New York Hospital, 1914, it was determined that every human being of adult years and sound mind has a right to determine what shall be done with his own body. We have determined that Mr. Benson was of sound mind during his interactions with the paramedics, and thus is entitled to make his own decisions to accept or refuse treatment or transport. Mr. Benson fulfilled the Virchow criteria used by paramedics to determine capacity, thus validating his wishes to refuse care. Mr. Benson voluntarily made his decision to refuse transport. He was not influenced or coerced by another person to make his choice. The paramedics informed Mr. Benson of their clinical findings and possible diagnosis, and advised him of their recommended course of action and the possible risks associated with the refusal of definitive care. So Mr. Benson was informed when he decided to refuse treatment and transport from the paramedics. Upon being informed of his current condition, Mr. Benson refused the recommended treatment and transport against professional advice. He cited his Advanced Healthcare Directive, stating that irrespective of the circumstances or condition he was suffering, he did not want any life-sustaining measures. By these measures, Mr. Benson clearly had the mental capacity to make his own healthcare decisions. Despite refusing treatment and transport from the paramedics, Mr. Benson was willing to heed their advice and visit his medical practitioner the following day. We can see clearly that Mr. Benson has capacity. An Advanced Healthcare Directive is a formal way to give instructions about your future healthcare. It comes into effect only if your cognitive health deteriorates and you become unable to make your own decisions. Thus, if Mr. Benson were to lose capacity, no life-sustaining measures could be performed. However, the Powers of Attorney Act 1998 allows an adult to make arrangements for future substitute decision making on their behalf in the event that they have impaired capacity at a future point. So, in the event that Mr. Benson were to lose capacity, his daughter Jenny would be responsible for any healthcare decisions short of life-sustaining measures outlined in Mr. Benson's AHD. At this point, we don't believe Mr. Benson has lost capacity. However, in an alternative scenario, if the paramedics deemed that Mr. Benson did not have mental capacity, example due to his mental state or the negligent administration of GTN, then Jenny, as Mr. Benson's appointed healthcare attorney, would have authority to make Mr. Benson's healthcare decisions, but she would not have the authority to overrule Mr. Benson's Advanced Healthcare Directive. We believe that Mr. Benson was of sound mind and was not adversely affected by the negligent administration of nitrates, thus had capacity to make informed decisions regarding his own healthcare. Given this, Jenny did not have the authority to enact her decision-making authority as Mr. Benson's enduring power of attorney. We draw on the conclusions made from the case of Brightwater Care Group, Inc. versus Rossiter, 2009. Confirms the clear common law position on the right of self-determination. The right does not devalue life, rather places an emphasis on recognizing that individuals can make choices regarding their own bodies. It does not allow a patient to receive euthanasia, but to decide whether or not to receive medical treatment. It would appear that while the right to life or the right to die are elusive, the right of self-determination is well entrenched in the Australian system of law. Thus, Mr. Benson is within his ethical and legal entitlements to refuse or consent to medical care as he wishes.
Created using Powtoon.